All right, so let's talk about the full first season of Everybody Still Hates Chris, right? Because last time, if I'm not mistaken, you talked about the first two episodes, which
Yeah.
I did not get a chance to see when they first dropped, right? So forgive us, folks, for the late review of this, right? Because yeah, this show
No, no.
literally wrapped up in late October, and we were just completely unaware of that today.
Okay, the episode 10 was so far back.
It
I
was
thought
so
that
far back. Yes,
really.
October the 23rd. Well, sorry. Well,
Okay,
the last two episodes drop on October the 23rd, right?
okay.
Yeah. And I guess for me it's just because I wasn't seeing it show up on social media, which is weird
Right,
to me
yeah,
though, you know. I don't
right.
know. Because what's so funny and
Well,
is
I myself just saw a couple
mm,
clips on TikTok, and
okay.
that's how I became aware of the show. It's like, oh, this coming out, but so they just hype it up, and then it does it, right? And so it's like,
Oh,
all right. I mean, whatever it is, like, sorry to say that. I mean, I know TikTok might be getting banned, or at least American TikTok, but like, from what I understand, they'll just like advertise something to you, and then they'll hype it up for 2 seconds. Like, is the only reason I know Marvel Rivals came out. Like, okay, seen. This is all of that. So it's like, okay, seen. Uh, but that's it. I didn't know about this. I myself it has been largely absent from social media for me as well. So
right,
that was
right,
kind of
right.
weird.
Well, for me, right, I feel it's the same way for you, right? I knew, well, I saw the first trailer for it, right? So I saw it more or less promoted, like, oh, this upcoming new show is a continuation of Everybody Hates Chris and it's animated. I say, okay, cool. It's showing on Comedy Central. All right, no problem, no problem, no problem. But then I was surprised when you wanted to talk about the first two episodes. I say, okay, cool. But I figured that you would have been, like watching it every week or whatnot, right? So, like, fun fact, I was actually looking for like extra stuff to talk about for this episode. More like, oh, what was a show that we missed or we didn't get a chance to finish up or whatnot? I was like, oh right, everybody still hates Chris. And then I did
Yeah,
the little research. Oh, it wrapped up in late October. What? Okay.
yeah.
So like, nah,
Okay.
let me do something about that, right? So for me, I literally actually watched this yesterday time I was recording this, right? So I did
Right.
a nice little binge of it. Well, I watched the first 9 episodes, then I stopped, went to see Sacrificial, and then I watched the finale this morning, right? The time I was recording this, right? But yeah, as I said before, this is a continuation of what I still think is a great TV series in the form of Everybody Hates Chris, right?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I
yeah,
remember not loving it because I felt I did too much like Wonder Years, but like almost like a parody of Wonder Years. But it was still like really funny in its own right, and it's like, okay, the Z.D comedy is what make it work. So it's like, all right,
yes,
see.
yes, yes, and just very how very self aware it is too, right?
Yeah.
In particular, yeah, just growing up in the late 80s, that's what it was. It really tapped into that, right? From the music to the clothes to the aesthetic and all that kind of stuff, it really leaned into that, right? But yeah, just like a Wonder Years or just like a Christmas Story, it's like Chris Rock who just narrates all these episodes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, just kind of look at it like, yeah, this is how it used to be, but he has this sort of sardonic humor and wit to everything. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is how I've been, and oh, this person grew up to be that, right?
Yeah.
In his typical style now, in this typical sort of like sort of sardonic humor that he does, right? And it worked for that, right? But yeah, like you, I didn't love the TV series, right? Matter of fact, I just used to watch it off and on, right? But when the show wrapped up, I can't remember what year it wrapped up. Yeah, I just up and decided, you know what? Let me just actually like sit down and watch this season by season. I was like, wow, like
Yeah.
the show's actually like really solid. I should have been
Yeah.
watching this weekly, dog.
I was kind of agreeing with you. It's like, yeah, I remember it being a solid show, and yeah, I got into it after the fact. Like, oh right,
Oh,
I was
okay.
watching that time. I think what happened. Okay, so when this came out, this was 2000s, because I remember we didn't
It
have
was
Fox.
it was in the 2000s. Yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
state? What thing this was on? This was on because this was like right
Okay.
before, like around the
All
time
right.
Kaza or whatever it is. But when the date it was, because I don't think we had Fox. That is why.
All right. So fun fact, this started off in UPN, right? UPN, right?
UPN. Okay.
From 2005, right? But then it
Oh
moved to the CW, and then it just kept on going until it wrapped up.
wait, this was 2005. So late?
2005. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
When
yeah,
it when it started?
it started in 2005 and it wrapped up in 2009. So yeah, so like for me, this was my introduction to Tyler James Williams, right? And yeah,
Right.
like he grown now, right? But yeah,
Yeah.
when he was in the show, he was like what, like in his teens, right? So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was really young when this when this show came
Right.
out, Dread.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. If for some reason I keep remember watching this with a friend somewhere, but where I was watching. Okay. I think I know what it is. The time period a little off, but yeah, it would have been 2006 or 7. But I was watching it in a friend's apartment, but not on another apartment. That is a. Katrina, I blurred my memories about this. All right, no problem. Go
Okay,
ahead.
yeah. But yeah, in general, it's just this coming of age story. It's just
Right.
about the teenage years of Chris Rock, right? Him going to this all white school,
Yeah.
having a younger brother who gets more chicks than him,
Yeah.
and just basically Chris Rock just being a nerd, right? And he have this white friend by the name of Craig, and together, they just sort of survive being being bullied in school and all that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, it's just the ups and downs, right? But then also, and this is really what makes the show work for me, though, is the parents by
Right.
Julius and Rochelle, right?
Yeah.
Played brilliantly by Terry Crews and Tachina Arnold, right? If you remember from Martin, right? Yeah, just their dynamic is great, though. Julius is just that cheap ass dad, though, but
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
understand why, and
Right.
he's
Right. Right.
playing
So
to the
I
trope
tell you,
of,
right.
oh, you're
Exactly.
working two jobs, you know what I mean? So they play on that joke, though, but it
Yeah,
works,
he
right?
kind of plays right, right, exactly. So right, this is why the timing is a little off for me because yeah, he the first time I know about Terry Crews was White Chicks, and that was 2000 what? Two?
That was 2002 or probably, I think so. Like it was
Right,
relatively, but yes, that was my introduction to Terry Crews as well, right? Because
right,
yes,
right.
even though that show is kind of trash, let me be real here.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was
yeah.
a stand-up performer, dog. That scene with him in the
The
club
dance.
with
Yeah, yeah.
with the dancing
With the
and
whistle,
the,
yeah,
and the
yeah.
whistle.
Yeah, yeah, classic.
Plus,
Yeah.
that's timeless. That is
Yeah.
timeless in my opinion, right? But yeah, Terry and Tachina, though, Tachina, whatever her name is, yeah, they were just hilarious too, and just those characters, just what Rochelle just being this, she not taking no shit from nobody, but she also insecure as well because she's a mom, it's like you'll do everything I say, what's up, whoop your ass, right? She's
Right,
that character, right? And while Julius is less reluctant to whoop, his children's asses and whatnot, yeah, he is still that it's tapping into that whole good times energy, right?
yeah.
He's tough, right? But he's a gentle giant at the same time, right? But yeah, that man was cheap as hell though,
Right,
and
right.
just the jokes though surrounding how cheap he is though was just hilarious to me, right? And then of course, you had the kids, right? You had Drew and you had Tonya, right? So Drew being the younger brother and Tonya being the younger sister. Tonya in particular always like to get Chris in trouble. It's like, oh, I'm telling Mama, and, oh, Chris did it, all that kind of stuff, right? So yes, Chris is the literal punching bag in the show, but
Right.
that's the point, right? But he learns a lot of life lessons, and it just relates to the times, right? The streets and whatnot, being raised in Brooklyn, but then also to race, right? And I just always love how the show touched on race, but it never felt it. All right, so it's dated, but it feels modern at the same time. It's not like
But yeah,
old
I mean,
old old jokes like oh,
the
what
thing
this
with Chris
white
Rock,
man did or what this black man did. It feel like,
right,
yeah, that's how it was in the 80s, but you could see reverberations of it now, right? Or we could
right,
look at it now and be like, wow, that's how things used to be, mate. And it's like,
right.
yeah, that's how things used to be, right? So that's a joke, right? Yeah.
No, yeah, yeah, that's all the whole thing, and it's mostly like Chris Rock's comedy lines up with it of him telling race
Yes.
jokes, as it was, and yeah, even that feels in itself a little dated because well, the show, I mean, for better or for worse, we'll get into that with the actual review itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, not surprising, everybody still hates Chris is a literal continuation of the last show, right? Of the previous show, right? I actually love that about the show. I love the fact that I did not have to watch over the first four seasons to be like,
Right,
oh, what happened in this and what? No, no, no. Like once characters are introduced, to be like, all right, I remember him. I remember the bully. I remember Craig.
Hustler,
Sorry,
yeah,
Greg. I remember Tasha, right? Oh gosh, Chris's love interest. I remember,
right,
oh, her mom was a former stripper, right? And
yeah,
I think she was, I think Tisha Campbell played her in the live action show as well, right?
right,
But
right,
yeah,
right,
she
right,
voices the mom in this too. I thought that was really cool as well, right? And yes, it is a literal continuation of what we saw before, right? But it starts off now with everybody still hates GD, right? So it's this whole thing where now he has to go back to ninth grade, right? Because he failed his GED test, right? So now he has to go into Drew's, so he in Drew's classes and whatnot, right? And everybody making fun of him, sorry, because like, oh, you're the oldest, so you're supposed to be the smartest, right? But then through some circumstances, he goes back to the 11th grade, right? And that's basically kind of the same thing, so just sort of play out like that, right? But that's like the old show is just about, yeah, just Chris's misadventures. He's learning a lot about the world around him, about what it means to be a black man and all that kind of stuff. But it's always in relation to his friends and his family, right? And there's all these weird side characters who show up as well, right? These colorful side characters, if you will, right? So yeah, I absolutely enjoy this, right? So
Yeah,
for
no,
me,
that's
right?
good too. Yeah.
Yeah. What the show does so well, I would say brilliantly, right? Is how it translates so well from live action to animation, right? Because
Yeah,
yeah, they could
workably. Yeah.
exaggerate the humor a lot more. Because yes, even in the live action show, there was exaggerated humor. There was that meta sort of breaking the fourth wall style kind of humor. Like, somebody would just do something, just like how to say, it's that Family Guy technique where a character will say, oh, he
Right,
does
the
this, right?
cutaway.
And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
they always had a cutaway and show you this really outlandish scenario just to
Right.
show, for example, why Julius is so cheap and all that kind of stuff,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
In this one, they could just show it in a more exaggerated way, in a snappier kind of way, you know what I mean? So for one thing, I just love how it flows though, just how it goes from joke to joke to joke, right? But it's even enough though, so it's not like just side gag after side gag, right? But it's telling a decent enough story. And for one thing though, I was worried about this going in, right? Would it be as funny as the original show? And believe it or not, it is funny. It
Yeah,
is like
it
literally
uses
laughs,
pretty
a
much
minute now.
beat for beat. Yeah, beat for beat is really similar type of humor.
Yes.
Even though they change out the voice actors for the kids, I don't think the kids come back. But it
No, no,
does do
no.
the
Yeah, and neither they got somebody else, of course, to play Chris, because of course Tyler
right.
is a old man now. He
Yeah,
he in Abbott Elementary though.
right,
I think he just produced the premiere episode. I haven't seen his name pop up in the credits again. I could be
right.
wrong, but I'll look it up, right? But I know Tichina and Terry,
Terry Crews, right? They play
yeah,
back. Yeah, they
they are,
yeah, bring back the rules.
yes, yes, and
Yeah,
they
no,
are producers as well.
right. Yeah, but that's the thing. It's the same style. It focuses a lot on them actually. I think a lot. With them
Yes.
coming back. Because they have a lot of great beats themselves. But they just make it work as it is. And they just make just it's just good, surprisingly good comedy. Like I don't expect the animation to be some masterpiece thing. It's just like it does exactly what it needs to do, and it does feels like the well, what is it the what the how many seasons that show had like basically the next season of the
Yeah.
show.
This is basically the fifth season. This is
Right,
basically that.
right,
Yeah,
right, exactly. So it's that.
yeah.
That's what we get, and yeah, kind of happy with this as it is. It's funny enough, flows well enough, not that bad. It's not of course not like some like Boondocks or anything like that, but up there,
No, no,
they just tell a
yeah.
lot of solid stories on its own right, and I just can't be mad at any of this. It's just solid.
No. Yeah, yeah, it was though. Yeah, the humor is on point though. It is still edgy and raunchy. I would say it's slightly edgier. Like I would say a little edgier, a little raunchier than what we've gotten from the
Right,
old
right.
series, right?
That would be on
Um,
network television. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, but that's the advantage of one, it being animated, and two, it being on Comedy Central, right? But it's not like explicit like see like the Boondocks. I mean, I love the Boondocks with the exception
Yeah.
of that
There is
final
one
season, which
episode.
was terrible.
Yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Because there's one episode I doubt would have been green like 20 years ago.
Oh, you mean
That
the
was
finale?
no episode 7. The one with
Oh,
the,
right,
the
right, right.
DJ.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so yeah, this is where Chris ends up becoming this DJ for,
Yeah,
and basically in this drag club, right? Or this
yeah, yeah.
sort of like gosh, this,
Well,
what do
we
you
call
call
it
it
a
by
ball culture. Them ball culture club.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, that whole
Right.
ballroom culture thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that episode actually was great though, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that was one of the better
Um
episodes I thought. Yeah.
it was, right? And if I'm not mistaken, I think like just the drag queens themselves were voiced by actual drag queens. They actually
Right. Yeah.
were.
Yeah. I
They
don't know
actually
who's
were,
the
right?
thing. I'd imagine it's a bunch of people from Pose or whatever it is, right?
Probably. But I
Yeah.
haven't seen posts, so I wouldn't know, right?
Yeah.
And I love how they just related, like they relate their struggle to, yeah, this street black teen, right? It
Right.
actually makes sense, right? It actually works. It actually works, right? But I thought they was talking about the finale though, which involves, slight spoiler, a porno tape, right? Yeah,
Right. Right. Right.
that,
Yeah.
where
That's
that
true.
though,
Right.
it was
Yeah.
pretty funny as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing though, I just really love the references. I mean, they had it in the first in the original show, right? But this one you really see it much clearer here. Yeah, just these references, these blink in the moment references, whether it's in the background, whether it's a line or whatnot. Yeah, to 80s media, right? Like
Right.
case in point, there's a episode involving Sally Jesse Raphael.
Yeah. Right.
And I was surprised they actually got Sally Jesse Raphael to voice herself, right?
Really? Okay.
Yes, it was her. I was
I
like, what?
noticed that.
Okay.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I saw like the episode like episode 9 was pretty good too. That was the one with the hospital. Uh, that was funny. But I don't know if this was a real thing. If I had to go back and do the research, if Doogie House was originally meant to be black,
Oh,
or
hot.
if that was just a
That
joke.
that payoff. Like, all
Yeah,
right. So without spoiling much, right? In my mind, I was telling myself, I feel they could make this a Doogie Howser reference, eh?
yeah,
And it
exactly.
did that. But how they play it off, I was like, that was brilliant. That was
Yeah, that
brilliant.
was
I
funny. Yeah,
love that. I love that. Yes, yes, yes. But that is in the same episode with the whole DJ thing, right? Again,
right.
that episode is great, right? Um, and just yeah, just these stories are very well told, though. You know what I mean? Just the beats, the characterization totally works. So I actually thought that the guy who voiced Chris did a great job here. You know what
Yeah,
I
he
mean?
could.
He's
Yeah,
no Tyler James, right? But he have the mannerisms down. You know what I mean? To a T, right? And yeah, again, just well, I mean, animation is done by I think it's done primarily by Titmouse. So you
right,
know, it's
right.
not like a expensive, animated show or whatnot, right? But yeah, it works well, do you know what I mean, in terms of just the style of it and whatnot, right? I even thought like the little music cues worked as well, you know what I mean? So it's not like in the last show where they will pull like actual songs, like actual rap songs or R&B songs and throw them in, right? But in this case, they'll just sort of like reference a song or whatnot, right? You know, so it works, right? And yeah, just the side characters though, just how unique and crazy they are work for me. Like case in point, there's one involving this singing trio, right? And yeah, like these there's this small acapella group, right? There's just these three guys, right? And then there's still to be this street gang out to the blue. Like, and surprise, surprise, they're actually voiced by Belle Biv DeVoe of all people.
Right, right.
Like Belle Biv DeVoe, like what? This is
Yeah,
what we going, That real hard though. Also I didn't see this coming, right? But I have to give Chris Rock credit for this too. Him incorporating his New Jack City character Pookie into this though. I
right,
just say, what
right.
it's
Yeah,
like
he
this is
shows
like
up.
what
Yeah, yeah,
early
yeah,
Pookie.
yeah.
If you remember where New Jack City began, that was in Harlem in '89. Now this is
Yeah, yeah,
'87. So I just
yeah.
saw it's like, oh, so okay, so this is where Pookie began. He came from
So it
Brooklyn.
gonna have a
Ah,
bunch
okay,
of.
I like that.
I can imagine have a bunch of Chris Rock references. Of course, like
Yeah.
they'll just show up. So like I can imagine the Pookie, but they can also have. Remember he also played a guy from shit. Was he? I'm gonna get you, sucker. One rib.
All right. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. I
or something
forgot
like
the
that. I can
character name
imagine
though,
just doing
but
all
yeah.
of them old jokes. I can even bring.
Yes.
They can if this guy second season. I can imagine getting all of them old jokes. But yeah, they
Yeah.
did a ton of references in this.
Yeah, and lastly though, yes, you're right though. This deserves a second season though, because yeah, they
Yeah,
just came through strong with this one
yeah,
though.
it's
It
funny.
it had the energy. Well, for me, like it just reminded me of just why the original show works so well, right? But
Yeah,
I think in animated format, it just works even better, Joe, because
yeah,
again, you could just exaggerate the humor even more, right? Not not to an absurdist level though, right? But just exaggerate things, though, you know what I mean? And it just works, right? Voice acting great though, references great. If I just have this minor gripes though, and funny thing, it actually happened in that same episode 9, right? Without spoiling anything, they make a reference to a film, a horror film in particular, right? When it was involving the insult of a character, right? But I was like, but that movie came out in '88 though. Like I get the joke, is a great joke,
all right,
but
no, yeah,
aren't we in '87?
they made a
I'm like,
mistake.
whoa,
They did another
easy there.
mistake. They made a reference
Yeah.
to Star Trek, I think. I like wait, Star Trek didn't come out in '88. Um,
Well, oh gosh, Next Generation, right?
yeah, yeah, Star Trek. They
Right,
say
right, right.
classic
Yeah,
season
because
two of.
Greg was talking to Chris about something. I didn't pick up on that though.
All right, he said you made a reference to Picard and Pulaski, and it's like
Right.
that was season two of Next Generation, but I think that was like '89. I was like, okay, that was a little off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yes, there are a few misses,
yeah,
like a few reference where they go a little too yeah.
little idiosyncrasy. Let's call it
Um,
anachronism. Sorry,
right,
anachronism. That's right.
anachronisms, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I should mention one last thing before I get to rating, right? I did not see this person showing up
So
in this show here, but boy, when I realized who it was, I was like, oh shit, he in this
who it
too?
is? Who is it with this? Who you
Us
talking about?
Buster Rhymes making an appearance in this thread.
As who?
As there's a moment in the first episode where
Okay, okay. Really use stuff.
Chris
Okay, no, right,
imagines the graffiti behind him talking. And it
right.
happens in like the
Okay,
first and second episode. I hear the voice like, wait the
okay,
it's either Buster or Bokeem Woodbine, because they have that same gruffy voice
okay.
there.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, wait, no, that's Buster Rhymes though. And
Right.
I was cracking up when I find out when I realized it was him. And I'll make sure to stick around for the end because like, holy shit, it's Buster Rhymes though. Like what? Like
Right. Right.
he in
Right.
the
Right.
studio though, but dog, that piece of dialogue he delivered, this knowing it's him though, this had me real cracking up though. But
Yeah.
it worked, right? But yeah, I absolutely enjoyed the show, and I think in the end, of the day, for me, it was just a big surprise to me though, because yes, on paper you would think, oh gosh, we why we reviving a show from 2000, well, which ended in 2009, Dread? Like why are we doing this, right? But nah, it just absolutely works, right? And before I get to it, right, what makes the timing of this show of this show's release or the season release so funny, right? I had to remind myself about this while I was watching this. Remember a while back this year we had good times,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That was pretty
which
bad. Yeah.
nobody asked for and nobody
Yeah. That was
cared
pretty bad.
about and nobody hyped up.
It's not about. It's not about. Nobody asked for anything like that. My attitude is that you know it's just lazy. It's just lazy and shitty.
Yeah,
You can make a new good times. That's fine. You could do something good. The idea of them doing it in a modern sense and it's the same apartment building, great. All that's fine. But this is trash.
yeah,
They're just lazy.
it
This is
was.
how you're
Yeah,
supposed to do this.
exactly. It just take the formula from the first from the original show and just make it animated and just make it even more over the top and whatnot. But
Right.
just make sure that the humor works and not just the humor as well, to the heart of it as well, too, right? Because it's not just Chris being a punching bag because it's the title of the show. No, it's about life lessons and just the family dynamic though. Because really that was the heart of Everybody Hates Chris, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, this first season was great though. I absolutely enjoyed this, right? So for me, strong 4 out of very like 4.5 out of 5, boy. I really, really enjoyed this, man. Um Will it make it to my top 10? I don't know any moment. It could be an honorable mention, but that's not to say that I did not enjoy the show, and that's not to say that this is one of the best releases, though, TV releases, and one of the biggest surprises I would say for the year, though. Because if you told me this year, right, we were going to get an animated, follow up to Everybody Hates Chris, I'd be like, why though? You know what I mean?
Right.
And last point I'll make about this, right? I find it so weird though. Like this, I would just say this is not coincidence, right? It's so interesting that we talk about this show here right now, right at this time, right? Even though the season wrapped up a month or so ago, because next week, at the time I was recording this, the host of SNL is going to be none other than Chris Rock.
Right. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
big deal.
I
That
hear you going right. I hear you
that is
going to
as
something.
big.
Yeah.
That is as big as when Eddie Murphy came in 2019
Right.
to
Right.
host
Right.
SNL during the same period, the same Christmas period. I think it was the I think yeah, I think it's the same if I'm not mistaken, this could be the mid-season finale, if you will, right? Before they
Right.
break off the before Christmas break, right? If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, right? But yeah, because they did that some years ago with Eddie Murphy. He came in for the mid-season finale and did that, and
Right.
he crushed it, right? So I feel like, oh, we're gonna do this with Chris Rock, right? So yeah, I know he gonna talk about. He can say, hey, and by the way, I have a show out, right? Everybody still hates Chris, right? Or nobody knew about it. Nah, okay, right, whatever, right? I feel he'll make joke out of that if anything. He probably wouldn't bring
Right.
up the whole
Well, I
Will
mean,
Smith
it
stuff,
was
but
on
yeah,
the red flag. Usual red flag is like it's one of the. I think it's one of the worst streaming services as it is. But it's we call it it's CBS. So it's like CBS.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's CBS, man. Like, oh gosh,
CBS. It's
like,
like oh god.
look, I'll wrap up here. Like, look, I seen a poster for this new Star Trek show with Michelle Yeoh. Like, all right, okay, cool, but why they wasn't pushing Everybody Still Hates Chris when it was out though?
I mean, whatever.
Well,
It's
oh
CBS.
well, because it's on Comedy Central. That's why. But look,
Yeah.
look, I would quicker see South Park posts than this.
Right.
I just seen, right? Promote the thing better now. But yeah, we
Yeah.
need a second season for this though, because yeah, this is off to a great start here, right? I don't know how long it'll last. Maybe it might last for 3 more seasons. Who knows? I don't want to overstay its welcome, by. But yeah, Everybody Still Hates Chris is off to a great start, man. But yeah, Ricardo, your final thoughts and written and
Yeah. No.
anything you
Yeah.
want to
This.
weigh on
This.
the
This.
episodes.
This is. I give it a solid outing. Like it nothing much to talk about because it was pretty standard stuff, all things considered. But because it is a continuation of the show, it really works, and it was just funny. It didn't have a cackling, but it was good. Like yeah, okay, this is funny. This is a funny beat. Really like just general conceit as it was. It is very dated, but whether or not you like the nostalgia of the show or as it was, because to me Chris Rock and his humor is very dated. He's very of the 90s and 2000s, right? That was the height of his
Yeah.
career. I
Speaking of that, sorry to interrupt, right, dog? Speaking of 90s, right? Man even had to go into his stand-up comedy bag hus.
right,
Because there's an episode involving a last piece, the last piece of chicken. I like,
right,
dog,
right.
you brought that
Same
up in
same
like
thing.
one of your famous stand-up performances, Dre. Like, somebody ate the last piece of chicken. Oh
Right.
no, no, no. Like I remember
Yeah.
that, dog. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't blame him because it's Chris Rock, right?
No,
It's
yeah,
comedy
exactly.
is like whatever, right? Moving on. But yeah.
Right. No, yeah, he's somebody who just I can't remember the last time I enjoyed his like a stand-up special of his. I think like my bet had one where he did three cities. That was the last time I enjoyed anything of his. But I remember he
Oh,
did
I
like a
remember that. But you didn't enjoy. Well, I mean, we all appreciate what he did now with the recent one with
no,
Netflix
I
where he shit up Will Smith. I mean, we
no, that
appreciate that.
I
But
think that last one was pretty terrible. Like I thought that like overall that was bad. It's just he just got off for Will Smith and that's what that get gathered the clipped that clip
yeah, well,
and went
yeah. The,
viral.
the last 10 minutes is the most memorable aspect of that.
Exactly,
To
but
be
the rest
honest,
of it
yeah.
was pretty bad. But I remember he did like a couple years prior to that he did another special. And I thought it was terrible. And I was like,
Wasn't
wow,
that on? I think it was either on Netflix or on HBO. No, but I
one of
remember it.
them,
I
right?
remember it being. Oh, it would just cut to a shot from one of his three appearances. I think that was the format of it. I remember
Right.
seeing that. Yeah.
I remember just that special being so bad though. And like, wow, Chris Rock just not evolving his material at all though.
Uh,
And I was just kind of worried in that sense though. And yeah, so it's that. Like it's just the paradigm of being the I don't know what happened with Chris Rock in particular, but just that paradigm of just the general somewhere along the line, the comedy gets shut down, maybe because of like just comedy not evolving, or people talk about woke this or nothing, or whatever it is. But whatever reason, he just never evolved, right? He had a
mm,
couple bits, they were kind of funny, like they made some, like they were kind of funny, but they were just like, I think because they were so delivered so badly, that is the problem. But like it conceits of the joke, okay, and that's how he is. He's just a guy who just, sorry to say, he never evolved the material in a good way, and a lot of it doesn't work for him. And you see that with this show, like it's still that dated comedy as it was, but because it still works well enough, and it's mostly his one-liners, like his one-liners just not landing for me in this. Like the bits itself, the show itself is fine. Like just a characters being funny, or the cutaways, all of that was mostly fine. But I thought his material in this fell mostly flat, and I really felt they needed to punch that up. That was like the one weak link in this. Ironically,
oh,
is Chris Rock himself.
yeah.
That is unfortunate. It's
it
really
it
unfortunate.
it's they done in the same exact way they were in the old show, right?
In the
Where
old
it's
show.
like,
And
oh,
then back
we're
then,
going out of the penthouse and into the White House, like
right,
that kind of style. Now, yeah, it's the same thing
right.
he did in the old
And
show,
back
same thing.
then, yeah, back then that was funny. Like back then,
Right.
but for whatever reason, just again, it just never evolved. So I felt that needed the punching up. But other than that, overall, I thought it was a good, again, solid voice acting. They bounce off the material reasonably well. They have a lot of great bits and conceits, and like there's that recurring bit that they pay off at the end Rochelle wanted to get fired from her job to get
All right, with
severance.
the
That's
severance P. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That
that's
that was
funny. That
funny.
is
Yeah.
funny. And then
Mm.
how they pay that off and how that plays out is funny as well. Like it's like, okay, that
Yes.
kind of funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, they make it work for what it is. Yeah, a rating. I get like 7 out of 10. I enjoyed for what it was. Yeah, again, it kept up. The quality got better from the first episode, and I enjoyed the first episode. So it's fine. I want this to get season 2. I hope it gets one. They do a little thing, and both Terry Crews and Tishina Arnold is still pretty funny, and they work off each other really well because they were the highlight of the show, and this is surprise of the show, and they make it work. It's a shame that the other actors couldn't come back for to do something, or to get a little side role, or do like what they do in the old show. Like you see how Orlando Jones was a thing, or Chris Rock himself came back, stuff like that. I sure they could do something like that maybe. But yeah, I dug this for it was. Yes, I'm out of it.